Hey guys, how's it going? So today we are going to do a play or nay review of a game called Okhlos. Now, first off, this is a game by Coffee Powered Machine, which is the developers. It is also by Devolver, which has made some very big games, but I think Devolver is the publishers. And then the game costs $15. At the moment it costs something like $13 on Steam, but that's because it's on a sale, because the game is still new, so eventually it will probably cost $15. So first off, we will jump into the options quickly. Options are very basic, to be honest. You get your language options there, and then if you want to play with a controller, then there you can put your sensitivity of the controller. You can also do a hard reset, but I would basically cry if I did a hard reset right now, since I've played quite a lot of the game. Obviously, as always with all of my play or nay reviews, I always play a lot of the game that I am reviewing. So you're not getting a first impressions from me, you're actually getting a very good, very reliable opinion from me, since I have played a whole lot of the game and I have actually completed the game multiple times. So as always with all of my play or nays, you can definitely trust my opinion because I've played a lot of the game. So I will show you guys my stats in just a little while. So here in the graphics options, you can set your graphics basically on Titan, which is the best quality. There is stuff like soft shadows, anti-aliasing, soft particles, and ×4 pixels and ×4 shadow cascades. So that's the graphics options. The control options, you can change it, but basically all that I ever use is the WASD and D to move around, to move your leader around. And then the left button on your mouse is attack, right button on your mouse is defend, and then sprint and collapse. That's basically the only stuff that I ever use. And then the sound, you can of course change your in-game sound and the music, and you will notice a little bit later on when I actually stay quiet in this video that the music is really quite good. I really like the music in this game. So those are the options. It's quite basic, and you also have a encyclopedia which you can use to look at all of the different guys and NPCs and enemies that you encounter in the game. Now, I have unlocked all of them except one, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is an animal, even though it's showing a question mark on top of a human's outline there. All of these are animals. All of these are animals. So I have a sneaking suspicion that this is an animal somewhere in the game. But other than that, I have unlocked all of the warriors, all of the slaves, all of the philosophers, all of the defenders, and all of the citizens. So you can clearly see I've played the game until basically 99% completion. I don't really know where you would get this one animal, but okay. So those are the regular units. Then you get the heroes. Now, the reason why I haven't unlocked all of the heroes is because you actually get codes from certain Twitch and YouTube people, streamers you could call them, and once you enter their code, you then unlock their hero in the game. But I have unlocked basically all of the normal in-game heroes. So all of the normal in-game heroes which come with the game, I have unlocked basically all of them. There are a few others that you can unlock by inputting a code inside the game. You input stuff like Go Jesse Cox Go in order to unlock Jesse Cox's hero. It's basically stuff like that. And obviously the game developers have done that to get a little bit more of a mainstream audience behind their game. These days a lot of games will include various streamers and YouTubers just to bump their game's popularity a little bit, because they know that the streamer or the YouTuber will then be how can I say, enticed to or encouraged to play the game on their stream. So you get a few very strange heroes like Garena, who is like a kind of a bird, and then this guy Jakatos, who is actually really quite powerful, who has a chicken head, and you get this guy with 4 arms, and you get Icarus and a whole bunch of different guys. So you basically get heroes that have a loose alignment or a loose attachment to Greek lore and to the Greek heroes of old. Stuff like Pyrrhus and Hipparchia of Maroneia. Now I'm assuming that some kind of a Greek person somewhere. And then all of the enemies, I have unlocked all of the enemies in the game. You get a few that are really quite powerful, like this guy is probably the most powerful hero or the most powerful enemy in the entire game. And then all of the bosses. Now there are a few bosses which I haven't unlocked yet, but once again I'm assuming that you unlock those by inputting a special code, because I have completed the game multiple times over and I have not encountered those heroes yet, or those bosses yet. But I have unlocked all of those that you normally get through the game. So when you start a new game, it will ask you, do you wish to do that, because it will erase your current progress, and then you just say yes. So this guy is the, how can I say, the quest NPC in the game. He's also the guy who quote-unquote narrates the game. There's no voices in the game, like no dialogue, but this guy basically pops up every now and then he gives you the story. So we will watch the quote-unquote intro cinematic quickly, and that will give you a little bit of a bigger idea and a better idea of what the game actually is based on and what the story of the game is. Yeah, so that is the story. 3 little scenes, I could say, 3 little kind of places where it shows you what happened, and that is why you're pissed off, and that is why you then go out into the game and you make your or you build a mob up like this. You just walk into the guys, and then you create a mob, and you make that mob attack the gods. Now all of these guys here are the gods, like whatever, Thor and Hera and all of those guys. So basically you just walk into the different guys. By the way, the mobs in the game that do stuff are the humans. The animals don't do anything. So all of those pigs and chickens and the dogs and cattle and all of that you see in my mob, they don't do anything. They are just there for decoration. It's only the humans that actually do anything in the game. So we will just pick up these guys, and then we will create our heroes at the beginning. At the very start of the game, if you start on your very first run of the game, you will have none of these guys unlocked. You will only have the normal guy unlocked, which gives you no benefits. As you can see there, there's no benefits. But then later on, you get guys like Heractocles and all of these guys with very difficult names to pronounce. So at the stage where I'm currently, you can select 5 heroes and 1 mob leader. So usually I get this guy, Darth Klonos. He's very good. And let's see, morale is very good, and this guy is pretty good. This guy is pretty good. Let's see what else. This guy Tarzan increases the defense and morale of animals in your mob, but I think that's just really a funny kind of a hero. It doesn't actually add anything to your party, because as I said, animals do not attack. They just don't do anything in the game. They're just there for kind of decoration, you could almost say. Let me just see, Darth Klonos. He is actually quite good, but only in the later stages of the game when you're actually doing bad. So I think rather I will take this guy, and then I can select 1 more. Let's take that guy, he's pretty good. And then you can select 1 hero. Now a lot of the mob leaders have drawbacks and bonuses, but you just really need to weigh the drawbacks up against the advantages which it gives you. Obviously this one is pretty good. He gives you a 40% max HP, but then I don't think, oh, this one is very good, 50% defense and 10% speed. So she is clearly the best, to be honest. 40% morale is also pretty good, but I think I'm going to go with this one. So yeah, and then you go up here to the top left, and then you can input codes, different codes for different heroes in the game. As I said, Go Jesse Cox Go is 1 to unlock Jesse Cox, and you get a whole bunch of other ones that you can basically just do a Google search for, and you should be able to find those codes then. But I don't want to play with someone else's character. I just want to play with the heroes in the game, since that is what you guys are going to play with. You're not necessarily going to input all of those different codes, to be honest. So the controls are quite basic. You move your hero around with up, down, left and right, which is W, S, A and D. And then where you move your mouse on the screen is where your mob goes. So you control the mob with your mouse cursor, and then when you left click and hold, they then will attack. So they will attack anything that is close to them. And when you right click, they will go into a kind of a defensive mode, which makes them take less damage than what they would normally do. And then you press shift in order to scatter them around. That is basically useful in order to avoid certain obstacles. And then you press space in order to draw them very closely to your mouse cursor in order to avoid certain obstacles, because sometimes there are obstacles that you need to weave through with your mob, but that's basically only at the very later stages of the game. So you can see space brings them together, shift spreads them out, and from there on you just basically press left click and they will attack whatever is in their way. So that's basically all of it. The game is very simple, so let's jump into the game, and I will stay quiet for a little while so that you guys can actually hear the music and the in-game sounds. So as you can see, you basically just go around destroying all of the skulls on the map, which are the enemies, and from then on you just basically move on to the next map. And at the top left you can see the amount of mobs which are in your mob. Basically this guy, this place that we are about to enter is a boss fight, so we will quickly fight a boss. But at the top left you see the 35 out of 35. Now you can increase your amount of mobs or amount of people in your mob to higher than 35, but you require different heroes. You get heroes that are recruitable, as we saw at the one transition. It's always during the transitions in the maps. So where you go from the one map to the next map, you then basically get to a shop, and at that shop you can buy different heroes, or you can buy different guys to go into your mob, just like 5 warriors or 5 defenders or whatever, stuff like that. But to be honest, it's much better if you can purchase a hero, because heroes are much more powerful than normal guys. By the way, this guy is a guy taking a photo of himself. It's just like a little bit of a how can I say, an Easter egg in the game. If you kill him 5 times, I believe, then you unlock his hero. So we will kill him and then we will move on. So yeah, you basically at the end of every level you get to a shop, and at that shop you can exchange 5 slaves or 5 attackers or 5 philosophers, whatever, for a hero. Sometimes it is more, so like here we can exchange 5 philosophers for 5 warriors if we want to, or we can exchange 5 slaves for 5 warriors. So I don't like slaves a lot, I would much rather take warriors, so we will do that. Now we have 5 less slaves in our group, but we have 5 more warriors in our group. So you then later on get exactly like that. You get shops where you can purchase heroes, and then you have to exchange 5 warriors or 5 slaves, sometimes it's even 10 or 15 slaves or warriors or whatever that you have to exchange for a single hero. But the heroes are much more powerful, and they sometimes give you very good like abilities. Like the one guy has an ability which I really like, where every time you kill an enemy, your entire group gets healed. So it's like a kind of a vampire effect, lifesteal, you could almost say. Let's see what we buy here. Okay, so here we can buy a hero. At the very beginning we could also have bought a hero, but we didn't have enough philosophers or whatever. So this guy I think will be the best, because he increases the mob capacity by 5. So that's actually really good in order to get your mob bigger. And so bigger mob means you can rain more destruction on to whoever. So now unfortunately we are a little bit weaker since we only have 25 in our group, but as soon as we kill this next boss we will be able to recoup our entire mob. We will be able to make it bigger. So next up is a boss. It's the very first boss in the game. So basically what you need to do with the bosses is you need to either just kill them, or sometimes there are special things that you need to do, like we need to damage this guy until his stuff becomes vulnerable, his little pylons, I could almost say. And then once the pylons are vulnerable, we then attack the pylons, and from there we once we've killed the pylons, we then have to kill him again. So it's pretty basic. And there we go, he is dead. So that's obviously a very easy boss, but it is the very first boss. So here you can see the different levels, and you basically just move from level to level and from map to map, and you just kill the different bosses, and you grow your mob along the path, because obviously the bosses at the end are much more destructive and much more powerful than the weak little boss that we just fought. So eventually it becomes really quite difficult to kill the bosses. You sometimes lose just about your entire mob fighting a single boss, because the bosses just become really so powerful that they kill your entire mob. Like there with the previous boss, I didn't lose a single guy, but you will see that eventually it becomes really quite difficult to kill the bosses. So yeah, that's basically it. As I said, you just move from map to map, and you collect guys, and you trade in those guys for heroes if you can. Otherwise you just rinse and repeat. You just go to the next place and kill more guys. So here I will trade 5 philosophers for 5 defenders. So it eventually happens like later in the game if your mob gets too much damage and if your numbers get too low, then at the very top of the screen you can see your morale. Your morale actually gets quite low, and if your morale gets to the very bottom, which is quite difficult for it to happen, it doesn't really happen quite a lot, but it can certainly happen, then you lose the game, because then your morale is too low and your mob no longer believes in you. So it is a good thing to keep your morale high, and you do that by killing enemies and by destroying the environment. So if you are a mega chaotic mob, as I am now, then you are at the maximum amount of morale and you can destroy buildings. But if you are not a mega chaotic mob, then you cannot destroy buildings. Now, destroying buildings sometimes yields benefits, like sometimes inside a building there will be stuff which you would not normally be able to get if the building was still standing. But generally you should just keep your morale as high as possible, because as far as I know, your mob also does more damage when the thing is at the very top, when your morale is at the very top. So we will go to the next one, and I think we will be one away from the boss then, the main boss. Okay, so here is another boss which we can fight, a side boss, you could say, an additional boss. And this is the pig. Now this guy charges forward and destroys your entire mob, so you should generally try to stay out of his way until after he has charged, and then you should go in and damage him as much as possible, and then you should run again, and then you should just rinse and repeat, since if he charges on top of you, you are going to take quite a lot of damage. So it's not just constantly chaos and just holding in your left mouse button. Sometimes you have to think a little bit and work with a little bit of strategy in order to kill some of these bosses. So as you can see at the top, my morale is actually getting quite low because I have lost a very large amount of my guys. And once your morale gets too low, your screen starts to get dark. So that is a sign that you are pretty close to losing your entire mob. So there you guys can basically see what happens when you are close to death. So it's no problem, because I'm just going to get my mob back, or get a mob back, by running through all of these guys on this map, and that should be enough to get my mob back up to 35. Okay, so this is now the next boss fight, and all of these heroes are pretty dumb, so I'm not going to take any of those. We're just going to beat the boss as is. Yeah, and that boss was also quite easy. He doesn't really deal all that much damage. So yeah, I don't know really what else I can show you guys. It's basically the same thing over and over. You fight bosses. After the boss fight, you just recoup your losses again in order to get your mob to the maximum amount that it can go again, and you just move on, try to collect as many euros as possible. And sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get very strong euros that, for instance, heals your entire mob for every enemy that you kill. And other times you get pretty weak euros or no euros at all, like for instance if you don't have 5 philosophers or 5 warriors or whatever the requirement is, then you can't buy a new euro. Then basically you just need to move on from the shop and you can't buy anything then, which is quite sucky because you are supposed to use the shops in order to make your mob stronger by buying new euros. So when that happens, it's a little bit bad because you basically lost the euro by not acquiring a new euro, but that's just how the dice rolls. Sometimes you can buy new euros and sometimes you can't, and unfortunately in the game there's no mechanic where you can fire your guys. Like you can't get rid of any of your guys, because if you could have done that, then for instance if a euro requires 5 philosophers but you only have 3 philosophers, then you can quickly remove some philosophers or remove some slaves or something like that from your party, and then go back to the previous place and collect a few more philosophers, and then you can come back with the philosophers and you can then buy whatever is needed. So yeah, it's a little bit sucky that that mechanic isn't in the game, but I mean it's not like a huge disadvantage. Basically if it was in the game then it would be pretty cool, but I mean it's not in the game, so you just have to work with what you are given. It's not really so bad. So yeah, that is basically just one of the bad things. Sometimes you get a good run where you have the exactly required amount of guys that you need to get a euro, and other times you don't have enough to get a specific euro, and other times you get a really weak euro. That also sucks. So far in this run I have gotten pretty weak euros, to be honest, and I think now twice already I haven't gotten any euros at the shops at the transition of the maps. So my mob is currently quite weak. It's a lot weaker than what it would normally be, but that's just life. You just have to restart and try to get another good run. So here, these heroes are very good. This guy is the guy that I was talking about. He heals your entire party, and this guy increases mob capacity. So he's also pretty good, but I think I am going to take the healer since he's actually quite powerful in keeping your entire mob alive. He's just a little bit weak against bosses, but against a lot of normal guys, when you're fighting a lot of normal enemies, then he is actually quite good at keeping your mob alive. So yeah guys, I don't really know what else there is to say. I guess it's time to give my opinion on the game, since I've basically already shown you everything that there is to do. Basically, this year is a special boss. We can quickly do the boss. You need to collect 4 keys throughout your run in order to encounter this boss. And it is the Hydra, and then after each boss fight obviously you get a additional guy, like an additional hero, you could say. And this boss isn't too difficult. You just need to kill all of the heads that pop up, and hopefully you can keep your entire squad alive, because the poison damages your entire squad. So you just need to make sure that your entire squad doesn't get low on HP and die all at once. But you can use the items that you've picked up. Of course, you use the items that you pick up by just pressing the corresponding number. So there you can see a number 4, which is being shown on my mob. So you just press the number 4 and then it will use that specific item. The different items are healing. You get a big kind of a ham kind of a thing, like a ham, I don't know what you would call it, but you will definitely recognize it as a ham stick kind of a thing. And you just basically press 3 and then you heal your entire squad. And the other items are, the one makes your squad invulnerable for a little while. The other one is just a huge keg of explosives that you use, and that deals damage to the opponents around the person that is carrying that keg. And let's see, Talking Dog joined. He boosts the maximum HP and morale of animals in the mob by 60%. That doesn't help me at fucking all. So yeah, you sometimes get very useless guys, and other times you get very strong heroes. Obviously that hero that I just got is absolutely useless. So it's basically like you lost a hero there. So sometimes you get a good run, sometimes you get a bad run. That's just one of these things. But once you die, and you will probably eventually die, you just start over. And you will then probably have unlocked another hero, and which you can start with, like the starting heroes. And that will give you a little bit of an advantage over what you had previously, because at the very beginning, when you just start playing the game, you don't start with any heroes. You just start with your normal hero, and your normal hero doesn't give you any advantages. But as you progress later on in the game, you can take with you 5 heroes, and you can take a special mob leader with you, which is really quite good. So yeah, my opinion of the game is that it's good fun for a couple of hours, maybe like maybe I would say maybe 4 hours of fun, to be honest, because the very first time that I beat the game, it took me about an hour and a half to beat the game. So you can beat the game in an hour and a half, and once you've beaten the game, there's not a whole lot to do. I mean, sure, you can just equip yourself with a few new heroes and run through it again, and then hope that you make it to the second level, because at the first level there is the final level, like the final boss, but then on your second playthrough there's additional level unlocked. So you basically have a little bit of incentive to play through the game twice, to beat the game twice. But once you've beaten the game twice, there's not really a whole lot that you can do. So yeah, the game isn't all that fun after beating it twice, and basically I would only see you getting enjoyment out of the game after 2 runs. After 2 runs, you're not going to get much enjoyment out of the game, to be honest. Wow, Andromeda is quite powerful. I think we will take Andromeda. So yeah, that's basically all that there is to say about the game. You basically collect guys, fight a boss, and rinse and repeat. This is a 3 boss which you fight. You fight 3 bosses. So this at least makes it a little bit interesting. Ares. And yeah, you basically just target down the one boss, and he goes down very quickly. And then you target down the other boss, and then you fight the main boss at the end. You should just watch out for that jumping thing which he does. It's quite painful, but they will go down very quickly, to be honest. And there they are beat. So you see the bosses at the beginning are really quite weak, very easy to beat. And I don't even have a strong mob right now. There's other times when you get much more powerful mobs. So yeah, the game is available on Steam for $13 at the moment, because it's still a new game, but the price will go up to $15 eventually. So yeah, in my opinion, should you play the game? If you have the $15 spare and you're just looking for a mindless game to play, then sure, this game is certainly a little bit of mindless fun to be had, but like I said, you will only get, honestly in my opinion, a few hours of enjoyment out of it. After you've beaten the game twice, there's really not anything new that you can do after that. There's really no additional content or additional enjoyment to get. So yeah, there are other $15 games which will give you more enjoyment, in my opinion. There really are quite a few that are more fun than this game for $15. I will link a few of them to you in the description below, just from my personal experience. Games that I've enjoyed that cost $15 or less, that will give you more enjoyment. But if you've already played those games, then yeah, you know, there's not much that you can do. Then I guess there's not anything that you can do except buy the game for a few hours of mindless enjoyment. But yeah, that is probably the way that I would sum up this game. It is certainly mindless enjoyment, and it's so basic. You just move up and down, left and right with the W, A, S and D keys, and you press your left mouse click button every now and then in order to kill the mobs, and that's basically it. It's really a basic game, and yeah, it's not a whole lot of fun, but I guess it's something to keep you busy for a little while. So yeah guys, I will just stay quiet until the next boss fight, and then I will call it quits for this video. I've already shown you basically everything that you need to know. So yeah, there's not really a whole lot of extra stuff that you guys need to see or anything like that. I've basically shown you everything that this game has to offer. So yeah, I will just stay quiet for a little while until the next boss, and that will be the end of the video. You can see this boss's tit is hanging out, her right tit is hanging out. That's pretty funny. Some of these bosses have pretty cool, how can I say, like models. The very last boss, I think, was it Zeus or whoever? He is like a bad guy, or it was Hades, actually, it was Hades. He's like a bad guy, but then he's wearing shades underneath his cloak. So he has like a cloak and he wears shades when he takes off his cloak. So some of these bosses are pretty cool, but I mean, you kill them so quickly that there's not really a whole lot of time to enjoy their coolness, to be honest. So yeah, guys, that is pretty much it. That is Okhlos. You can pick it up on Steam for $15. And yeah, it will certainly give you a few hours of mindless enjoyment. The music is pretty damn cool. I certainly like the music. I would almost say that the music is the best part of the entire game, since I actually bought the version of this game on Steam that has the music with it, the OST, and I listen to that a lot while I am editing videos and just doing mindless browsing on the internet. So I really quite like the music of this game, and you can, as far as I know, buy the soundtrack of this game on Steam without actually buying the game, if you really want to, for a few dollars. So if you want to do that, you can certainly do it. So yeah, guys, that's basically it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Ah, Hero, we were just talking about you.
This burden falls to you. Join me. We don't have much time.
Thank you. It's the least you can do to support this.